Are we recording all?
Sure.
We're good? Okay. All right. We're going to get started.
Ready.
I want to thank you guys for coming out.
Thank you.
You got a full mouth.
Yeah. Laugh track.
Doing something a little
With the
different.
popcorn.
You gotta hold it up.
Yeah, we have to hold a
Laugh.
sign, laugh.
If there's
You just see Ashley in the background like this. She's the meme, the
there's ever-
popcorn meme.
Okay, so Tomas is a big mentor of ours. I've learned everything I know plus more from him. And if there's ever a question in between the podcast you want to ask him or ask us, pop on in. We'll answer it, or he'll answer it, and we'll reiterate it and stuff. But welcome back to Moving Mirror, and I'm happy to have you on. I was his first guest on his podcast.
Yes, that's right.
And he didn't even tell me. He was like, hey, put these on. We're going to test this out. I'm like, all right, so put them on.
Just start talking.
Yeah, just start talking. And it was like a 30-minute podcast.
Yeah.
And that was your very first podcast.
First podcast.
You're welcome. That's why you always follow us
Well,
now.
you were
That's
his
right.
first guest, but I've known Tomas longer.
That is true.
How did y'all meet?
We met prior to real estate and it always pops up on my Facebook on memories, and it was the Texas Young Professionals like networking mixer.
Oh,
it was a long time ago. It was like 2012.
Okay.
And and then 2013 I got into title, and then I went to your 40th birthday party at Santerra.
Oh, that's
You had a
right.
birth-
That was a crazy
that wasn't-
birthday.
That was a huge party.
Yeah.
I went to your birthday party.
Yeah.
And then also when Luis Ortiz from $1 Million Listing came,
Oh, man.
I was
Yeah.
at that.
I remember that.
And then
We had 325 people
the
in the
Totem.
house.
that was the first time.
That's
That was the
insane.
first time that I saw him speak, and I was engaged. I was like, man, I would love to work for that guy. And then I ended up working. So let's backtrack. Let's welcome Tomas. Thank you for coming on. But also, I want to introduce you.
Thank you.
Tomas is a business owner of multiple businesses, but more importantly, he brought Luxury Home Magazine to San Antonio and to Austin. He started it from the very beginning, back when there was no advertising like luxury in this market. He introduced it to everybody and really segued everything and pioneered it. So Luxury Home Magazine, you got TM3 Impact, you got your podcast, you got your speaking, you got a lot. You're a dad,
Yeah.
you're a husband.
Yeah.
you're the husband of a author.
Oh, yeah.
Christina's book we
Shattered
have to
Pieces
talk about.
Everywhere.com. Shattered Pieces.
That's awesome.
Everywhere.com.
Is it on Amazon and stuff?
It's everywhere. Yeah.
You gotta read
Amazon, everywhere. Yeah.
That's awesome. So
But
Tomas,
It's a
also-
really good book, by the way.
Yeah, no,
book
I
is
can
really good.
only imagine, only because I know a little bit about you and Christina's story, and especially Christina's story, and so now I actually want to like sink my teeth into the book.
Yeah.
But also, you and Christina, are y'all still active realtors?
No, we have our license.
Yeah.
But we don't practice just because we don't want to compete with
Right.
our agents that are in the magazine. But
Right.
we do have our license. Yes. I just had to go through CE. I mean,
Which
we all
everybody
know-
here probably
we
knows
all
to do.
know about that. I mean, come
Yeah.
on. Yeah. So I just had to go through that.
so what year? So you
process.
started Luxury Home Magazine in 2011.
11.
And can you take us back to the time? Because I know you've told the story many times, but I think it's such a
Yeah.
fascinating story of starting the business with Christina with your wife and really getting that going. What was the reaction that you got starting that business?
Well, I remember the first couple agents that we started talking to. One particular agent, we sat him down and we had an NDA. And I'll never forget this. And he will not care if I share the story. It was Binkan. We made him sign an NDA, and he literally took the NDA, signed it, and he literally shoved it. He's like, "What do you want to tell me?" He goes, "I'm not going to tell anybody. I don't care.
Right.
Whatever." Like he just didn't care at all, right? And so we explained to him, and he goes, "Don't do it." And I was like, "Really?" He goes, I don't think you should do it." And I remember sitting there, and I was like, well, kind of what was your reasoning? And he explained, and I thought through it, and I thought, yeah, I could see some of the idea of it because San Antonio at that time was trying to find its identity in luxury. We really, in 2011, it was taking, if you had a $2 million house, you're looking at, 365 days to sell. For anything over $3 million was like 2 years.
Wow.
It was taking a long time to sell these houses. And so I could understand that there was like this idea that is San Antonio luxury, right?
Yeah.
And so those were some of my first conversations with agents, and then we decided to go through with it. Obviously, he's been in the magazine ever since. He's on the cover of this issue, so he believes in it. He knows what we do. But I would say in the beginning, it was really difficult from a standpoint of like no became my vitamins. Like there were a lot of no's.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because this was cutting edge. It was nothing had been done like this in San Antonio. that was strictly luxury real estate. So it was difficult in the beginning. It was me, and then my wife came on board. Christina came on board probably about 8 months in. So I've gotten it off the ground. We probably had 3 issues, and then we had made enough money to where I could bring Christina in to where she could help me out and start doing billing. Yeah. Because I am terrible at billing. Okay, that's not my jam. That's not my jam. So I needed someone to come in, help me with the books, help me with paperwork. When I was a teacher, any admin work, if they asked me to do paperwork, it never got done. It got lost on my desk somewhere. So when she came on board, she just took us to a whole nother level.
Wow.
I know back in the day when David used to work there, he always would talk about goals of pages.
Yes.
So how many pages were you at the beginning when you first started?
Oh gosh, 32.
Wow.
So the first book was 32 pages. And what I like to say is it was fluffy.
Right.
Okay, so we had some
You threw in whatever you could get. Yeah, recipes.
We had some fluff pages in that book. Yeah, 32 pages.
Coupons.
But you know what was amazing about that book is when it came out, it was so different, and people were just kind of like, one of the cool stories is there was an agent that wasn't in the book, and he told me the story. He came home, and he decided he didn't want to be in the first issue, top agent in the city, and didn't want to be in the first issue, and his wife is like, hey, have you seen this listing from Deborah? Have you seen this listing from Bincon? And he's like, where did she? She goes, right here in Luxury Home Magazine. I made sure that he got it at his house.
Right.
And so that story, and which led to agents, seeing the magazine, seeing where it was, it really helped propel us to where we are today.
Well, yeah, and then you hired a really great sales rep that really.
And I hired, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Now the interesting thing about David's hire is, when I go back to that time, I was in, because that was after I turned 40. So like when I turned 40, the magazine had gotten to a point where I had Austin and San Antonio, and I had somebody kind of helping me in Austin, and I had somebody kind of helping me in San Antonio, but I didn't have a salesperson.
Right.
And I needed somebody that could kind of come alongside me and be out amongst the people that I'd hired before. Matthew was not going to go anywhere near anybody, and Mitchell, I love Mitchell, but Mitchell wasn't going to go outside the office, right? So I needed somebody to take us to the next level, and then David comes on board, and with a little bit of training, he was able to get us to that next layer of being out amongst networking, helping out, being around at parties, events. Yeah. And so I remember that was the year 2017 we hit 112 pages.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a big year. You remember, because we were going neck and neck with contracts.
I think we also too, which is a big part of our brokerage now, is when I was on board, we were really dabbling into video. That was we were really trying to push video. And I think we kind of did it together. And that model that we did there. And obviously, there wasn't agents doing that. Nobody. And so now you guys are doing luxury videos, luxury interviews, podcasts. I mean, that's pretty cool to incorporate the foundation and then bring in the new style of marketing as well and kind of mix it too, because nobody's doing that.
For sure.
Cool.
So I remember the evening and luxury events.
Yeah.
Those were, I was going to those before I was in real estate.
Before we were even dating, I just, admire you from afar at those events.
And I doubt that. But I remember those were the events to be at. And I mean, I wasn't anywhere near real estate. Yeah. I was when I had my PR company, and I would go to these events because those were the events to be at. And so tell me, what was the genesis of those events? How that started. They became the events to go to in the Dominion, in Cristobal when they had first kind of started to develop. And so, I want to hear
how it started. So it started, my wife really was the brainchild of it, right? So I remember the very first cover, Ann Van Pelt was on the first cover. Wow. It was 11 Queens Heath. Queens Heath, right? Mm-hmm. So it was an amazing house. And she said, I asked her, it's hey, would you be willing to do a party? And she said, yes, but we can only have a certain many. It was an AT&T exec. And she's like, we can only have 40, 50 people. So we threw this party at this house. I had paisanos catered. I spent I don't know, $7,000 on food.
It's a lot.
This was a lot of money. And this was this, I remember that first party looking at my wife going, okay, we didn't make any money, but we're going to spend?
Right.
But it's a branding
story
thing, right?
of our life.
So we spent a truckload of money for this event. And I'll never forget, Art Burdick came to that event.
Wow.
And from that meeting, he goes, I'm interested. He goes, let's talk, because he built the house. And so Deborah had the next cover. And so we did a party at one of Deborah's, we did another cover party. It was in Dominion. That party I think we had 130 people show up to that event.
Wow.
And again, now Burdick wasn't in the magazine yet. Burdick, called me over and he says, all right, I'm ready to meet.
Wow.
And that became the trend. So the party became another way for us to get
market,
Yeah,
new
absolutely.
people in the magazine because they wanted to be in that group.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of exploded from there. I remember we did our second anniversary, another Dominion house with BingCon, and that was the one where we had the lady on the trapeze.
Yeah.
She was hanging. Remember
This
that
one will not drop
We
the
missed-
aerial trapeze
Yeah, the
lady.
aerial trapeze.
He will
Yeah.
find a
Yeah.
way. She's
Yeah.
actually here on the side.
gonna come
She's
this-
just doing it in the background.
It's gonna come this year.
And I know she still does it, but we haven't been able to track her down to figure out how
I'll
to
find
hire
her.
her again. But
Yeah,
we
she's
need to
probably
have her
listening to
come out
this.
again.
She
at
probably
another
misses
event.
y'all. David and I will drive around. Well, when we lived in the Dominion, but we would drive around, and I'm like, I've been at this house before. It was an evening in luxury
Yeah.
event. I've been at this house before, evening in luxury. I remember all the houses. And then when we were at the time, my former title company, we were one of the sponsors.
Yep.
And my old sales manager was like, "You're getting up and speaking in front of everybody." And I was like, "Okay." And I'm holding
I
the
remember that day.
magazine, and I'm like, "We're proud sponsors." And then it just kind of like was a ripple effect after that. And
You
then
remember where we were at? Was that the Broadway?
Broadway.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was
I remember-
No.
No, I
I'm
remember
talking
that.
about another one.
Oh.
This one
Yeah.
was Davenport. It was a Miguel Herrera
Okay,
house.
yes, that was a cool house. Yeah.
It was, I
Yeah.
think, an older house, but it was really cool. You walked in. I remember like the whole layout of the house.
Yeah.
That's the one I went up and spoke. And then the Broadway is when I was like on a platform and I had to speak in front of everybody. And I was like,
know.
all right, we're doing this. And
That's when
you were there.
Yeah,
And then
fell back
yeah.
in love. Yeah.
There you go.
Anyways, I'll never forget. Okay. Anyways, okay. Going back. Okay. So I want to bring this to you talk to agents every day, some of the biggest top agents in Texas. What would you say is one of the main things, or some of the main things that separate those that are top agents from being the best to those that aren't maybe a little scared to invest money in themselves, or maybe not taking the right tactics in marketing or sales? What's the difference between you see top agents and average agents?
So, well, number one, I think there is a time on task. There's an aging process, like a fine wine, to being in the business, and I think there's a lot to that. There's a lot to the idea of having a business that is repeating. So you're having clients that are referring other clients to you. So I do think that you've got to put the time in. So with that time comes the opportunity for agents to either grow in what they're learning, or they become stagnant in what they're learning. And what I mean by grow, so going to events, going and learning from other agents that have done really, really well, spending the money to either read or go to conferences. I think you guys did a mastermind with Sirhan. Did you do it? You did the mastermind with Sirhan. The idea that you're just going to get better by just doing the work but not going outside to learn what other people are doing, I don't think that works. I think you're going to have to invest and go out. The top agents, from your Kimuras to your BingCons, are out networking. They're out meeting with other agents. And so I think that's a huge part of it. You've got to get out amongst other agents that are doing really, really well. And you've got to talk to people that are growing their business and find out what's working for them.
Right.
How can that work for you? And I think that, and then I think there's got to be some self-awareness. And I think this is the piece, a lot of agents, they know what they're good at, and they stick to that.
Right.
And they don't try to do everything. The really good agents are really focused on what they're good at. You take a Jason Glass, right? As an agent that's been doing this a long time. Jason Glass lists houses. That's what he's really, really good at, is getting listings. And then the selling, he has agents, he has a team.
Right.
And so focus on what you're good at, and then find other people to connect to grow what you're doing.
I also think the best advice I heard was, I guess it's not even advice, it's just like, it takes 10 years to look like an overnight success. So many people are like, well, where did Kumara come from? Or where did Binkan come from? Or all these top agents. And it's like, if you actually go back and look at their plan and like what their business plan was starting from the beginning, they may have been at a smaller brokerage and they hustled and they were a buyer's agent, they were a showing agent, and they put in the time and put in the work to now all of a sudden be like, who's this guy? Who's this person? They just came out of nowhere. And it's like, no, they've actually been grinding this whole time. And I think that's so important because so many agents, I think, it's a blessing and a curse to have shows like Selling Sunset, $1 Million Listing. When I would meet with agents, I'm like, what made you get into real estate? And they're like, $1 Million Listing. And I'm like, oh gosh, oh no, like abort mission, because I know exactly where their head's at. And it's the glitz, the glam, the parties, the cool, the cool everything. And it's like, well, in those shows, they don't show the hard work. Yeah, they show maybe some negotiation. They show, a $7 million deal fell through. Yeah. Darn. But they don't show all the behind the scenes of like you're rearranging concessions and you're giving up commission, and David's on his hands and his knees with wood paint doing wood floor chips a couple weeks ago, and he's like, I'll be home a little late, and there he is like doing wood marker.
Gotta make it happen.
You gotta do it, and that's what people I think don't see, and I think so many agents want the glitz, the glam, the whatever they see on TV, and they forget that a lot of that actually takes hard work behind the scenes to get to that level.
Or fast forward to evening luxury parties, like he threw these amazing, luxurious, elegant parties, and when you showed up, everything was done. It's perfect. You walk in, get a drink, get some food, hang out, listen to music. But what you don't see is the 3 hours before of him sweating, setting things up, calling people, hey, you got a party tonight. You hope you can make it out. Like really following up 5, 6, 7
grit
times.
And grind behind it.
Weeks before, putting email. I mean, there's so much work that goes into throwing an event that you just show up and think it's just done. But the person throwing it, getting the branding, getting the marketing done, is the one grinding for the past 4 or 5 weeks trying to make it happen. So same with real estate,
Yeah. I'll share a cool story about Binkan. You know, I don't think I've ever shared this on a podcast. So when I started in 2009, I was an agent, I was a teacher, and it was a summertime. So I had the whole summer, to basically just hang out, right? So what do? You go to the office and you sit there and you read a book. Because I had no one to call. Well, who am I going to call? I didn't have anybody to call. So I'm sitting there in a hallway. Now, you got to understand, the Sotheby's office at the time had a hallway, and it had a desk in the hallway. At the end of this little hallway is a desk. Guess who's sitting there? Binkan is sitting right there at that hallway desk. I'm at the other end, and I'm sitting here trying to read my The Millionaire Agent. Oh, yeah. You know that book, the Keller Williams book, right? And I'm trying to read The Millionaire Agent, and I keep looking over at this guy, and I'm like, he's on the phone, he's doing this, and he's talking, he's doing emails. And I finally lean over, it's like, who the hell are you calling? Like, who are you talking to? Like, what? And he looks at me, he's like, anybody that answer the phone? Yeah. And I remember sitting there, and he's going from English to Spanish, and and nonstop. He was Rookie of the Year that year. That's the year he started, okay? And I'll never forget sitting there because he was there in the beginning of the day. He was there all day. Unless he had an event, he was there at his desk making emails, talking to somebody. Now, fast forward. We're starting Luxury Home Magazine, and we're transitioning out, and I have a few listings. Christina had a few listings. And there was one listing on Prue Road. This was probably a $250,000 house, okay? And I took Binkan there. This house needed a little bit of like touch up. It needed some stuff. It needed love. And Binkan, in the meeting, he said, listen, I'll be here. This was 2011, okay? He goes, I'll come here and I'll help you paint that deck. But we need to have that deck painted before we put it on the market. And I'm looking at Binkan like, I'm not coming here to paint a deck.
David would have been like, I'll find somebody to paint it. I'll call somebody to paint it.
Because I'll be here and paint the deck. I'll help you paint it. And then fast forward to we had another client. I'll never forget. We're sitting there. This is a $650,000 house. He said, "Listen, you don't really need to do anything, but there's a couple of things here, and if you need help, I'll come help you." All of that has led to the success that he's had today. That he probably doesn't even remember that story of him offering to help that guy paint the deck. And I'm almost positive he did actually show up to help them paint that deck. Which is nutty, right? That's next level to think about who Binkan is today.
Right. Yeah.
But the reality is, if you think about it, as an agent, the agents that go above and beyond are the agents that get repeat business. Going back to your question earlier, right? Is what separates them. The agent that makes the whole process easy. The agent that makes it the easiest is the one that's going to get the most clients.
Right.
You make it smooth, you make it easy, you make me feel like, oh man, this was a breeze.
Let's do it again.
We want to do it again.
Yeah, or
Right.
they'll refer you out.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's what I always try to press to the agents too. I'm like, that's why it's really important to have your A team for your vendors. Your lender has to be on the same page, your title company, your home warranty, insurance, whatever it is, to make it look like all of y'all together, you don't want your clients to see that, hey, it might be 10 o'clock at night and this deal might fall apart, but all of y'all are working together without your clients knowing that y'all are putting it together to save the deal. And it's all about just making it look seamless and easy. And I think that's so important because that, like you said, that is going to be what sets you apart.
Yep.
And in regards to getting business and, starting from carte blanche, I always think about who are the people that you refer your most business to. Your hair person, let's say if it's a hair person, you send your hair guy, your hair girl, so many people. Have you ever actually asked your hair person, who do you have as a realtor?
Yeah.
Your mechanic, you send them everybody that says, hey, I need car work done. Well, have you actually ever asked your
Leroy
mechanic?
actually has.
Yeah, Leroy actually has asked his mechanic and got business out of it.
You got the
That's
Uber Eats
awesome.
guy's number today.
You forget to just ask for the business and just say,
Yeah.
look, I've been referring you so much business outside of real estate. Who's your realtor? Who do you work with? And at some point, it's the law of reciprocity. Like, people are going to come back and say, hey, well, I want to give it back to you and say, you've sent me so much business. Here's the least I can do. Maybe I'm not ready to buy or sell, but my mom, aunt, cousin, sister, next door neighbor was talking about it. And here, I want to go ahead and refer that to you. And so, when agents sit there and say, I have nobody to call, I'm not from here. I'm like, that's fine. Open up the phone book.
Yeah.
A through Z. Just start calling, and you just have to start asking people. And I'm sure BenCon at some point, I know that where he started prior to real estate, so he did have a network of people, but he was able to capitalize on that time and time and time over again. And I think that that's something that's to be said for about just
Well,
putting
him making those calls over and over again was being
Right.
top of mind all the time. And I think that's like the most important thing as an agent is you can get forgotten about really easily. If you're not posting, if
'Cause
you're
there's
not out there, if you're not making
13,000
calls,
agents.
you're not in front of people, like
Right.
you may not be in business. 2 days and go by, don't hear from you. Is he still an agent?
Well,
So that's
and also I think it's because how many you probably would know this statistic. How many licensed realtors right now, as of right
There
now?
was 15. I heard it was 14, 15 during the pandemic, but it went back down.
Right.
So it's around 13 now.
So think
Yeah.
about it. If your hair person, if you're sitting there and you are with them every 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever, however often, and you're talking to them and they'll say, oh, I actually just bought a house. And you're like, are you kidding me? And they're like, yeah, my mom's aunt's cousin's sister's girlfriend is a realtor.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm literally with you every 6 weeks. How come I have not ever made it known that I'm a realtor?
Yeah.
And that's what I think agents forget is like you constantly, there's a way to gracefully let them know, hey, I'm here for you. If there's anything that you need, please let me know. This is what I do. This is what this is my area of expertise. I'm happy to help out. Here's some success stories. And then of course, top of mind via social media or whatever it is that's currently working for you, whether it's postcards or social media or just picking up the phone and just making your calls. I always try to remind the agents, I'm like, hey, now, like during the winter freeze, I'm like, now's a really good time to remind your clients of freeze tips.
Yeah.
Or, anything like that comes out in, CPS or SAWS or anything that comes out, any notifications that come from them, now's a really great time to stay top of mind for your clients. And there's something to be said for that.
No, for sure.
No, I think that the main thing you're going to want to do is top of mind, but more importantly, like you said, stress-free. Like,
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many clients that referred me because the entire transaction was like nothing. It was a breeze. I took care of everything.
That they thought.
And I tell them,
They thought.
I tell
Right.
them,
They thought I had
for
to
sure.
see
Oh,
the
yeah.
other side of it.
well, I tell them from the beginning, I said, I'm going to make
We
this
have a
as
hole in our
stress-free
wall
as
and he's patching.
possible. I'm going to be as communicative as possible. You're going to hear from me all the time. I say this all the time. I'm 24/7. My wife hates it, but you know what? I'm here for you. And then it works. And they feel like they got
And
me
they
all the
actually
time.
don't take advantage of the 24/7. When you let
Yeah,
them know
for
you're
sure.
available,
For
they
sure.
have boundaries. They're like, I know you're with your kids right now. I know that it's the evening. I know it's the weekend. But as long as you just let them know, hey, I'm here for you, whatever you need. And I know some realtors that have some gall, I'll use a better word, that are like, if you call their number, it'll say, I only work, I only
Oh, yeah.
answer this phone between the hours of Monday through Friday, 8 to 6. Anytime after 6, I'll get to it within the first 2 hours of the next business day. And I'm like, kudos to you for setting those boundaries. Like, how's it working out? But I mean, it's different strokes for different folks. Some clients are like, okay, fine, I get it that that's the type of machine that they run. And then
Yeah.
some people, it doesn't work. So you kind of have to also figure out what your demographic of clientele leans towards. And a lot of David's clients are doctors, so they're not able to see houses or talk about houses or have that discussion. You know, they might get off at 6, but they're stuck in the OR, and then it's 9 o'clock at night, and then it's 11. We were supposed to go to dinner with some of his doctor clients, and it was like 8 o'clock at night, and they're like, we're still in the OR, like we're not going to make it. It's just, you just kind of have to figure out teacher clients. That's another one. You know that the summer is when you hit it heavy with them, and then and their hours are, you know, they're at school starting at 7 in the morning, and maybe they're off at 2 or 3. So just kind of figuring out what works for your clientele and your demographic of clients.
For sure.
I want to talk about your experience with video so far.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I was with you in the beginning, and it's kind of just taken off.
Yep.
So where are you at on video? What do you see? What's coming soon with you? Like, what's going on with that?
Yeah, so, you know, Soren, a new videographer. Soren, my man right here, has been doing an amazing job. Shout out to Soren. I think what, you know, video, I think what we did for a long time is I was trying to produce a lot of content, and I really want to try to document a lot of content now. I really want to try to, like, this is kind of a style of documenting content, instead of like trying to make it, you know, like, I felt like, you know, we did Mindset Monday for a long time, but I felt like that was producing it. Like I was forcing it instead of
more organic.
I need it more organic. I need it more natural. And so I think we've tried to do a little bit more natural with the videos. I was a keynote speaker for Coldwell Banker, and so I had we had a bunch of clips from that that I was able to put out. Your event, I was able to take some of the video from that. From the event we did with your agents. And so I look at video right now is, you know, the Gary Vee thing, he said it for a long time. It's document, don't create. It's document what's going on and get it on video wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, and get it on video and then put it out to the masses. And then make full length and then make bite size, which is that you know, you call it micro content.
Right.
I feel like micro content, these little bitty clips, now that you got threads now where you can put a lot of micro content on. You have you know, your stories, your Instagram, everything, and now YouTube has shorts. You know, I think they call it shorts or reels or whatever they call it. Right?
How do you
shorts?
How do you feel about threads? I think that's pretty interesting. It's kind of like a Twitter.
Well, think about it. Let's be honest.
I feel like you'd be really good on threads.
Okay, you early adapter.
I think you'd be really good on threads.
Well, here's
one
the
more
thing.
thing I gotta figure out.
Thing. Threads is the
Twitter of Instagram.
opposite of Twitter, right? So to me, here's what's going to happen. You have a lot of people that don't like Elon Musk.
Valid.
That's true.
Right? There's a lot of people that don't like Elon Musk. So they're going to automatically gravitate to threads.
Yeah.
And then you have people who really like Instagram and threads. Forever y'all all signed up, right? Everybody signed up?
I'm signing up right now.
Right. So it's literally you just bring everything over from Instagram.
Yeah.
It's too easy. And so you can follow everybody that you were following. Right, there you go.
Follow the same Instagram accounts you follow. Okay,
so,
follow all.
So to me, like I think Threads will be it's going to be another way that's going to divert. Because I'll tell you honestly, I don't really do anything on Twitter.
Yeah.
Do you?
No, I haven't been on Twitter.
I'm locked out of my Twitter. I couldn't even tell you my password.
I'm curious to see how.
Active. Yeah, mine is like you've been locked out 6 years ago.
Well, I'm curious to see how real estate goes onto Threads. Like I don't post ever on Twitter for real estate. I don't think I've ever gotten business from Twitter, but Instagram and Threads are, you know, same company.
They're very
so
connected.
I'm really curious on how people start developing content on Threads, or if it's going to be a repeat of content, which I've done right now, is just pull my stuff over. And
I think right now, just pull your stuff over. Just start, you know, sharing.
Figure out what sticks.
Yeah, and figure out what kind of works.
Because you can't even do hashtags.
Yeah.
I was dumb. I was like, hashtag, but I'm like, it doesn't even exist.
Yeah, on Threads. Hashtags doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's going to be a way for them to kind of pull a lot of those Twitter people over. But definitely, like Gary Vee says, if there is a new format, jump on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. Because if you could be the first adapter and you can amass a good following on that, then you're going to be there at the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, imagine TikTok, had we really jumped on TikTok,
right,
you know, a long time ago, right?
Charlie D'Amelio.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Also, I follow a lot of influencers, and now it's all about subscribe. $4.99 a month, and I'm like, you better believe I'm paying $4.99 a month for certain people to get like their private content. Yeah.
God.
To get their,
Are you doing it on?
it's like bloggers. Like I want to see them build their home behind the scenes, and I want to know what color granite they're using. Like they're gatekeeping their granite.
But
I'm paying for it.
Are you doing it on what's the other format?
OnlyFans?
Where you pay not OnlyFans.
This is a PG podcast.
What is it? Patreon.
Oh, I do.
Patreon?
I'm on Patreon.
Okay, yeah.
But I only follow like 3 podcasts on Patreon,
Okay.
and then they'll upload videos to it that you can only watch. It's like for all the normal podcasts, they like
Yes.
some of them have like a Patreon addition to it.
Yeah.
It's like 2 or 3 of them. But now I follow bloggers that are like, you now have to add notifications to see my stuff. So it's like Instagram is now being heavily controlled and filtered and
monetizing it.
monetized. Exactly.
they're monetizing
So it's
it.
like, okay, if social media, if this is your medium of getting business, then you better figure out every single angle of it and just pour into that.
Now, so I remember there was a point where we did the social media boot camp.
Yeah.
You remember when we made that class?
Stories just came out.
Yeah. When what came? Stories.
Stories, yeah.
Yeah. So David and I made a class called the Instagram boot camp or social media boot camp.
This is a great segue from my first podcast.
Yeah.
When I talked about old people trying to get on Instagram.
Okay. Yes.
Got a lot of flack for that. I know.
What was really interesting about that, when we were doing the class at that point, one of the things that I was trying to get across to agents is that social media can be the bridge to nowhere.
Right.
Okay, and what I mean by that concept is, and I got that concept from there was a bridge in Alaska that they were building that literally went to nowhere. It was like they were trying to build this bridge, but they were just wasting money. And so what I tell people is that social media, it can become the bridge to nowhere, meaning you're putting effort into an activity that's not making you money.
Right.
So you have to be very, very careful that if you're going to do social media or if you're going to engage in social media, you need to make sure that it is a money-making activity, that it's an activity
Tomas,
that
I said
can
it gracefully.
actually produce an outcome that can
Right.
help you.
Right.
Whether it be if you're going to teach something, make sure that it's something that is going to bring value and it's going to add value, and that somebody could hear that and go, I didn't know that. Right? A lot of people, I think there was a time, this whole deal with protesting your taxes, and I know y'all have had a class with Raul about that, which I think is really important. But there are certain facets of that no one tackles. There's also some new tax credit for veterans that gives them a tax credit on their taxes, and they get it for the life that they have the loan. Nobody's talking about this. I just learned about it the other day. And so the thing is, money-making activities, make sure your social media is not just a bridge to nowhere.
Right.
That it's engaging and it's active, but you're not in the scroll of death.
Yeah.
Don't be in the scroll of death. That's not actually going to get you clients. Go to sleep, wake up, figure out what you want to do, and then do something, but don't just be on the endless scroll.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Well, and I also think that you said it way better than I did last week, because I was like, look, sometimes people are just trying to say, hey, Instagram is where people are getting business. Let me try it. And I'm like, well, if that's not working for you right now, why spend any time, energy on it?
Right.
And so I think also you have to figure out what works. If you are going to do on Instagram, or maybe you are already on it, figure out what your demographic is really clinging towards and really gravitating towards, and do more of that. I have built this like little pocket of people that like, I have a lot of pop culture stuff. I post a lot of pop culture stuff, and it just gets so much response. I can post David and I stuff in a very, in a weird like tongue-in-cheek way, and it gets a lot of response. I can post one certain thing and not one, it just falls flat. So I kind of know what works, but that's because that's taken 6-7 years of growing a database and a network and a following of like figuring out what my following per se wants. And also, I'm not trying to get business on my Instagram, but in turn I do get a lot of business, and I think David would admit to it that a lot of his business comes from my following. People are saying,
Yeah.
Well,
I admit it. there's been a lot of people that have come that are saying, hey, I have a question for David. Hey, does David focus on this area? Hey,
I know you subscribe to my account, so I want to like.
Or they think I'm a realtor.
Yeah.
So many people, like I have close friends of mine that are like, you're a realtor, you're a lender. And I'm like, okay, close, but maybe no, like in the same realm. And they're like, hey, is this something you can do? And I'm like, no, but I've got the perfect person for you. Or, hey, does David do this? Or you're a realtor, I want to get y'all's take on this.
You know,
But that comes with time.
this happens all the time. I'll go to an event, or I'll go. I mean, I can say it. I go out to dinner or something, and I'll run into somebody like, "You're David."
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying I'm well known at all,
Yeah.
but the next thing is you're Alana's husband.
Yeah.
It's always followed by. It's not even like I'm not even like well known in the real estate industry for myself. It's for her. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
whatever. I get it.
That's awesome.
That's called 10 years to look like an overnight success.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did all the legwork for you.
You know what's funny though about Instagram and video is I got my start. I think I got my start in business through real estate through Instagram. I think I continually get a lot of business from Instagram. And I started out by going to listings that were not mine. Like they were just amazing homes. I would go showcase them. This is back when stories first came out.
Yeah.
So I would go and video them, and I would get tons of inquiries like, "Where's the house at? How many square foot?" I mean, you would get clients. You kind of just keep following up, and it eventually becomes your client. But then I got Eric and another videographer, and I just started making real produced videos. And then I started doing something I really love, which is the creative side of a listing. I would get a cool listing, make a really cool creative video out of it, some of the amazing effect to it that nobody saw coming, and it kind of captured eyes. Had nothing to do with selling the house, but just showed the house and myself in a really cool, different way. Yeah. And people loved that, shared it. I just kept doing it over and over again. So what I love the most is doing those videos, and those get me the most business without even talking about the house.
Right.
It's doing something creative that I love doing.
Because it's genuine.
And it's fun.
And
And
it's organic.
And it spread. Then the house video spreads, and people start inquiring for it. Click the link, and it's an indirect way of selling without being like, hey, check this house out. And it's more of a fun way to sell real estate, in my opinion.
Now I think there's a lot of people that are trying to replicate that.
Maybe.
And because back in the day it was the listing videos, and it was like the zoom in on the water faucet. And it was like to classical music, which still works for a lot of people, and there's a time and place for that as well. But then you started incorporating like a drone aerial shot, and then just doing really cool videos without saying this is the house, this is all the info. And then all of a sudden other people started to get like, they were like, oh, now I'm going to try to do that. And it's
here's
just
the
like,
first line of every real estate video. Welcome to 150. It's always like, and then it's like 4 sentences and the video's over. And it just goes into like some B-roll. It's like it's the number one, but make it fun. I feel like that's the scroll of death for real estate videos, is the same type of listing video over and over again. If you make a fun theme out of
300 hashtags.
Yeah.
That is
Instagram has already said you don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
They're like, you can't even, it doesn't even work anymore.
I think we need, as a brokerage, to start theming our videos, making it like a house tour, yes, but in a fun, cool, unique way to the home. And I think that's going to separate our listing videos from everybody else. So hopefully nobody steals those ideas.
Well, the other idea too is what you're doing right now.
Steal the idea,
what you're doing right now, you're doing a podcast in one of your listings.
Yeah.
And so I think that's unique.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's going to be something that I was telling Tomas.
Welcome.
Or we got some.
They feel attacked because they all say welcome. They all say welcome.
All right, at the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, welcome.
No, but I feel like y'all always have a good segue. Y'all's is like, kick up your boots or dust off your boots, and it's always something fun. And then it's welcome to.
Okay, have you dabbled in this yet?
What's that?
Chat GPT.
Oh yeah.
It's been my best friend for the past 3 months.
If you're not incorporating it into your business, then it's going to take your place.
Yes.
So unless you found a way to make it like your right hand and incorporate it into your business, you will soon be replaced.
Well, this is the thing. We're talking about it on a. This is the thing. So, what I will tell you is that all of these services are incredible.
Right.
And my wife and I are very selective of who we tell about it.
Yeah.
Because at this point, it's becoming, there are people who are, I was literally sat down for lunch and an agent that's 20 years old, 21, showed it to me. This was 3 months ago. And I remember sitting out and we were just messing with it on my phone. And I looked at him and I said, this is going to change everything.
100%.
This is going to change everything. So what I would tell agents is this, is Chat GPT, get the account, open it up, and just start playing with it and letting it learn different things. have it create emails for you, have it create letters for
Learn
you,
your tone.
have it create hashtag post for you. You could literally say, here's my house, here's a little bit of information, create 10 social media posts, and it will create 10 social media posts with hashtags.
Yeah.
It's the craziest
And
software
if you don't like it,
out there.
if you don't like it, try again.
Try again, redo.
love
But here's
that.
the thing. But so for agents, here's the thing. I warn this to agents is you need to go back. Don't just copy paste.
Right.
Be very, very careful about copy and pasting, because the problem that I'm seeing with ChatGPT is I'll have multiple letters and it has the same intro for multiple letters. And it'll have the same, it will even do the same facts, the same points for this letter as this letter, and they're like word for word.
Right.
So it's not going to eliminate copywriters. It's just going to do 80% of the work for a copywriter.
Lay the foundation, yeah.
It gives you the foundation. You were in PR. You know how this works. If you had that back then,
Oh, gosh.
game over.
I would have gotten a lot of sleep.
Game over,
Yeah,
right?
for
Like
real.
you would have changed the game.
Well, think about the blogs.
But you still need 20%.
the
Yes.
blogs. I mean, what's cool about this is that there's an AI software. You can take this whole video to break it up into clips for you, and then it'll translate it into a blog for you, and then it'll translate into captions for each post, and then it'll tell. Then you can tell it, pick me the most viral clips of this entire 2-hour podcast, and it'll give you like 5 viral clips, perfect.
I saw in
edited
the news
with captions.
I saw in the
It's
news that
crazy.
you can go onto ChatGPT or what's it called?
ChatGPT.
GPT.
GPT.
Yeah.
And and you can say, plan me my vacation.
Oh, yeah.
You can say, plan me my vacation. I want to go 3 hours from San Antonio. I have a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old, a 5-month-old, and I don't want to spend more than $5,000.
Yeah.
That'd be a dream.
And it'll plan, and it'll say, I want to do, you can say like, I want to do outdoor activities. I want to
Yeah.
do it, whatever it is. And now it'll plan your whole vacation.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm saying, like, if you're not incorporating it into your business, then soon it will possibly replace you. Granted, it can never show you a house.
No,
One
not yet.
day,
Yeah.
one day these little robots will come in and,
That's
you
it.
know, those little Segway iPads.
But going back to top agents in the industry, they're utilizing softwares like this to save time. So they-
leverage.
Yep.
That's-
It's a leverage piece.
Yeah.
The one I would also talk to you about, I don't know if y'all watch 60 Minutes. I'm an old dude, so I like 60 Minutes.
On like cable?
And on TV, bro. It's on TV. It's on regular station.
It's on CBS,
all
right?
The bunny
anytime
ears?
I hear
Yeah.
that clock, that little
Yep.
I think about my
Game time.
mom, and I think about Sunday football and hanging out with my
Oh,
mom,
yeah.
because I would watch it every night with my mom. So 60 Minutes just had I just watched it again today. They had an episode about Google and what's going on with Google and all the latest. And Bard, this is what you need to look up now. Bard, B-A-R-D. Bard is Google's version, but it was trained with all the information available to it. It learned everything that it could learn.
That's scary.
That's
and
cool.
it's Bard. And Bard, the difference is that Bard is not just like scraping the internet for its answers. It's giving you answers from its own knowledge.
Wow.
Which is a little different. And I think it's more current. ChatGPT doesn't go past, I think, 2021.
Oh,
so
wow.
it doesn't know
Oh,
any
that's
current
interesting.
events. So you just that's the one big difference, I think, between Bard and the new ChatGPT.
Did I make this up, or is this, I'm reading like, Bard can list some power words to use on your resume that show leadership, but it can write some lyrics for your heartbreak anthem. Can you tell AI, like, organize my, I wonder if in Bard you can say organize my Google Drive,
Yeah, you can.
right?
Well, you can do it on ChatGPT. You can copy and paste the file in there, and it'll do it for
And
you.
say organize my Google
Yeah.
Drive. I mean,
Yeah.
that's insane.
It's crazy, you know. But for agents, I think for agents to take advantage of this is you've got to touch it and play with it. Like, I think a lot of agents have this hands off, like, hey, go figure it out and come tell me what to do with this, right?
Yeah.
Or I got to have somebody just show me exactly 1, 2, 3, 4. The reality is, if you don't learn this yourself, somebody's going to learn it, and they're not going to be willing to share how exactly they're using it to their advantage, because ChatGPT learns. So I have all these chats that are all inside my login, and everything that I've ever asked it, it's learning from what I'm
Wow.
asking it, and it's putting it into these new things that I'm asking.
That's cool.
So the more that it learns about you, the more that it's learning about you, the more that it can actually help you with whatever you're asking it to do.
Wow.
That's going to replace a lot of admin, a lot of extra staff.
Yeah.
I think
Any
because
content, it's hard,
content,
right?
that's, I mean, just doing a lot of that admin side of it is very time consuming. And so to be able to create that leverage, and I mean, even you can write it, have it write listing.
I don't do that. Descriptions? No.
Listing descriptions.
Yeah.
And you can just say, hey, incorporate these words. Here's the tone. And so, I mean, it's the future. And that's why I say if you're not like incorporating it into your business, then it's going to take over.
Definitely play with it.
All right, I'm going to get out of business. I want to talk about something that you didn't do when I was working with you, which is you are Iron Man twice, right?
I've done a half and a full.
Triathlete.
Half and a full.
Half and a
okay,
full.
take me into your training program. How hard was that to go to the full?
Well, I talked about this on Jared's podcast. It was so the backstory is in 2016. So how old was I? What was that? 7 years ago. So I was 40. I was right around my 40th. So yeah, probably right around my 40th birthday. I was about 190 pounds. And I had probably gotten to the heaviest I'd ever been and the most inactive that I'd ever been. I retired from basketball. I was a big basketball player.
Yeah, he's good.
And I couldn't hoop anymore because I was always getting hurt. You know, couldn't hoop anymore. And it was devastating because that was my one thing. And so in 2016, Tony, boxing, who you're boxing with, he's gonna change.
He's great.
He's gonna change your life, dude. Tony, that gym.
I'm gonna get him on the
change your
podcast.
life. That Tony, what ended up happening is I realized that I needed to change. He texted me a photo of a picture of me with like a triple chin.
Damn.
And he sent it
Game
to
over.
me. And he's like, "What are we gonna do about this?"
Wow.
And I was like, "Gangster."
That's a good friend.
Yeah.
That's my
But you
worst
know
nightmare.
what? It was a good friend because it made me realize that I needed to make a change, and I knew that I needed to do something different. Right? I needed to do something different. So I started working out with him, and at that point, Ironman in 2021 was not even a thought. Think about it.
Yeah.
2016, I'm working out for the first time. Ironman's not a thought. So then fast forward, as I'm working out with Tony, I'm working out really hard and I'm running, but I needed a why because I was like, what's going to get me up in the morning?
Right.
And some people have heard this, but
I love
I'll
this
say it
story.
again. But my
This gives me
why,
chills.
my why became, if I don't do something, I'm not going to see my granddaughter. And I know that I'm going to have a granddaughter. I already know her name. Enzo's 13, by the way. He knows the story. My son
like a
is 13.
premonition.
He just, he's not dating any girls. So there's nothing like that happening.
Right. I think we should have a caveat right there, like
That's
a little
right.
disclaimer.
But my idea is I know that I want to see my granddaughter. And I don't want to see my granddaughter. I want to play with my granddaughter. I want to lift her up. I want to run around with her. My dad is 68.
Your dad and
my
you look
dad
like you could be
is
He
brothers.
is ripped.
Yeah.
You look like you could be brothers.
And he'll be 69 next year. My dad, super blessed. He just got through chemo. My dad, and not a lot of people know that, but just went through cancer and kicked its butt. Okay, my dad. I'm so proud of my dad. But the thing is that he's always been active his entire life. Okay, so fast forward me having this why I need to see my granddaughter. Fast forward to I get to a point where I'm running, and we're running like crazy. And in 1 year, I run 1,100 miles. And I'm running Binkan. I get Binkan to go to the gym, and Binkan and I are running like a ridiculous amount. We ran on a Saturday, we do a half marathon, and then on a Sunday, we're like, let's do it again, and we'd run another half marathon, which then led to me running my first full, which was in 2018. So 2016 to 2018, I ran a full marathon.
Wow.
So then the following year, we keep running, and then I end up doing another, a bunch of halves, and then I convinced Binkan to run a full marathon with me.
Nice.
But I ran the Vegas 3 weeks before. So I did a full marathon in Vegas. 3 weeks later, Binkan and I show up. He's like, I can't believe I'm doing this. He signs up the day before. He goes and runs one and does almost 4 hours. He did it almost 4 hours.
Wow.
I think he did it in 4 hours and 9 minutes. Need you to understand, that's ridiculous. That's crazy. He had not gone past 15 miles before. And I think for me, leading up to my first marathon, I had never gone past 14 miles. So I say that to say is that it was a progression.
Right.
And then in between my Vegas marathon and my San Antonio marathon in 19, I had 4 friends compete in Ironman. And I watched them cross the finish line. And I'm like tearing up. I got goosebumps. I'm screaming my head off. That was the moment where Ironman became maybe.
Yeah.
But I didn't
On
know
the
how
radar.
to swim. It wasn't even on the radar because I didn't know how to swim. You know, like
Legitimately did not know how to swim.
I could not swim a lap. Like in a pool.
Could you float?
Formally?
I could be in a pool.
Are you talking like formally could not do like a formal
I
breaststroke?
couldn't do a freestyle. Like
I don't even know what that is.
freestyle
Wait,
to the end.
there's a pool at Bluff Green. Do you want to
So
try?
Why don't we take it to the streets?
Like right here, if you got me in that pool, I could go across, but I would be out of breath. But
Yeah.
we're talking about
Yeah,
my friends
long
took me to
miles.
a pool. You're talking. I gotta go from one end to the other. I couldn't swim from one end to the other without being just like dead tired.
Wow.
So then I get to the other side, my friends, 2019, right? This is when they're training. They go, no, you have to go down and go back. And I go, I can't come back. Like, I'm dying over here. So then I get back, and I look at both of them, and I go, I don't know how I'm going to teach myself how to swim. So what do you do when you're in that position? You're like, I got to hire a coach.
A swim coach.
I need somebody to help me figure this out because this is the thing about real estate. If you want to get to the next level, doing what you're currently doing is not going to get you to the next level.
Right.
You're going to have to do something different. And you're going to have to find the people that are doing things differently. And then you got to go learn. So I found an Ironman guy. His name is Mark Cerrone. He does not do swim lessons anymore. Don't call him. Don't call him and ask
What do you
Mark
want,
for swim
swim?
lessons.
Yeah, I'm gonna sign up for an Ironman.
So Mark, he took me and he watched me swim, and I remember his face just kind of shook his head, just like I don't even know where to begin, you know. And then he said, okay, here's the deal. You're gonna do all these drills, and you're gonna have to go do it, and then come back to me in 2 weeks. So I did all those drills. I got a little bit better, but I still couldn't swim like 100 meters. Like I couldn't do 4 laps at that point.
Because
So,
endurance or
it's just
form, technique.
everything.
Okay, all the above.
all the above.
Okay.
Form, technique, breathing. Like
It is a great workout.
It's the best workout on the planet. It's my
'Cause
favorite
it's not
workout.
so hard on
From
your joints
here,
and- yeah.
I'm going to swim
Oh, nice.
because I love it. I just love swimming, and I didn't get a chance to work out this morning. So the reality is I get to the coach teaches me, and then I have to go learn on my own. And then it became this saga of me like, okay, I'm gonna train for an Ironman. I'm gonna start, but I still don't really know how to swim. But it kept messing with my brain. And so I got better slowly but surely. I found people, started swimming with other people. But this is what people need to know if they don't know. An Ironman is 2.4 mile swim. So you have to swim 2.4 miles. Then you ride a bike for 112 miles. And then you do a marathon at the end of that, 26.2 miles.
So it's a
That's an
mental
Ironman.
game. It's an endurance game. It's a skill. It's all the
All the
above.
above.
Because
Wow.
running,
All the
yes,
above.
you need to have technique and skill and endurance and cardio and all that. But it's like you're just running.
Yeah.
Well, I
You
think
just put some headphones on and you just run.
Isn't
This
the
is
hardest-
a mental aptitude thing.
isn't the hardest transition from swimming to bike? Like it is like physically, like you're like
No, it's a little awkward, but it's not too bad. But there's a fourth discipline that everybody forgets. It's nutrition.
Yeah,
Oh,
I was
yeah.
just about to say
Because
you got to
we
really.
always forget that one.
Right?
I always
Right?
forget that one.
Well, but think
That
about
one
it.
just slips my mind.
When I finally did Ironman in 2021, I was exercising for 15 hours and 26 minutes.
Wow.
Straight. From 7 in the morning to like 10 o'clock at night. So for 15 hours you're out there, and so you've got to be feeding yourself while you're working out. And that's the fourth dimension that a lot of people
Forget.
really. It's hard. It's like because sometimes your body does really well with some
Right.
carbohydrates.
Yeah.
Sometimes your body doesn't react really well. So yeah,
Jeez.
One
there's
of
a lot to it.
One of my friends, I follow her on social media. She went from like working at a bank, and all of a sudden is like did a couple Ironmans, and now she does like personal coaching and stuff. And I mean, I see her there measuring out like 3 curdles of cottage cheese because she's like, this fits in my macros, and then you got to do the PB powder and all of that.
I didn't
and I'm
do
like,
that. No, no.
That's
So what did you do?
wild
What,
to me.
what was
I don't
what
like
was your
peanut butter that
what was
much.
your nutrition like?
Well,
I can't train. I don't like peanut butter.
No, I don't have that
I'm out.
level.
I
yeah,
hate to be taken out, but
so the nutrition part for
peanut
me
butter.
was I had to eat more than what I was accustomed to, which in theory goes, oh, that's great, right?
Yeah.
Like you get to eat more. But when you're working out, so to train for Ironman, it's about 14 hours a week. So it's another full-time job, like right, like a little part-time job that you're doing. So it would be 2 hours on a Tuesday, 2 hours on a Wednesday, about an hour and a half on a Thursday, and then Friday was a long swim, could be an hour. Then Saturday could be 4 hours, Sunday could be
that really
3
is a full-time
hours,
job.
2 hours of running. It just depends. So all that added up to about 12 to 14 hours of training.
So Christina obviously is your biggest supporter. Was she like, hey, you need to be home more? Or was she like...
Well, you know, the interesting
She
thing
knew
was
the
is
angle.
I did this all really early in the morning. I
Oh,
had
wow.
an indoor trainer, so I would do this, you know, like while they were going off to school,
Yeah.
I was riding on the bike, but I would help out with breakfast. You know, on the weekends, I would go do a long run, but I would be home early enough to where I could cook breakfast for them.
Gosh.
So I tried to mitigate a lot of that to where I was not around as much as possible, because it's a part-time job.
Yeah.
But now
The fifth element is discipline. I mean,
Yes.
that is 100%. I mean, you're waking up prior to everybody. Before, when everybody goes to bed, you're putting in extra. I mean, that is all out of all of this. That's the discipline, being able to wake up every morning when it's cold outside, when those sheets are real warm, and you're like, I got to get up and do it.
And I'll tell you,
That's
if
my
you would have
thing. I
asked
can't.
me, Tomas, and when you work for me,
Yeah.
Are you a disciplined person? And I would say no, I'm not a disciplined person. I lack the real kind of like,
Laser
even when
focus.
it's hard to really go do what I need to do. I needed a trainer. Like, okay, tell me what to do so I can go work out.
Right.
But what this taught me was that no. You are disciplined when you have a why big enough and a goal big enough. And it's what I tell agents. If you have a goal big enough and you have a why big enough, you'll work harder than everybody else to get what it is that you're trying to shoot for.
Right.
If you're willing to and you'll be the most disciplined that you've ever been in your life. But if you don't set the goal, if you don't have the scoreboard of what you're going for, then what is there to be disciplined for?
Yeah.
Right? Sure.
What's the verb on Threads? Because I want to say like retweet.
It's woven.
Well,
Woven?
weave
Wo-
that.
woven?
Read that?
I think it's just like rethread.
I don't know, rethread. I don't know, but I mean 100%.
Yeah.
And like you had said prior, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And I think so many agents are like, oh well, I'm making a few calls a week and I'm checking in with a few people, but I just can't seem to get any business. It's like, well, you're doing the same non-productive task, possibly non-productive, maybe it is productive, over time, but what are you doing that's different? What are you going to do what's that one thing that's different? And it's so true. I mean, anybody that has a why big enough is going to outwork anybody.
Yep.
And, you know, so many people are like, oh, well, you know, how is David successful? And I'm like, that guy's at the office every single day. Not because he
I'm
has
more
to.
disciplined now than I was working with you. Like I think you gave me that mindset to where I need to have some kind of structure in my life.
Right.
I need to have something because we had just started dating. And I think you took me into a place where it's like, you're going to be a husband, you're going to be a father, you put some really good supportive thoughts into my head to where when I left you, I had everything built you gave me.
Yeah.
And I just applied it tenfold. You know, and now, I mean, this morning I woke up and my alarm went off and I just looked at myself and I'm like, looked at my hands and I'm like,
And I whispered and I go,
I'm going
are
back
you
to
going to
bed.
go to
So
boxing?
I put my head down.
4:45 in the morning.
And she said something like, it wasn't even audible. I couldn't even hear it. And I was like, I'm going. And I just rolled out. But like, I just feel like when you have that goal, my goal is to be the biggest, best brokerage. I want everybody to know our name in San Antonio. That's my goal.
Yeah.
And it will get done. And so like you said, I work the hardest. I'm there at the office every single day. I'm showing. I work all night. I don't stop looking at my email. I mean, it's bad, but I don't look at my email until it's completely empty.
Yeah.
So it's true. The why is the brokerage. The why is my family. The why is, just being something bigger than what I was last year.
Yep.
And so you gave me that mindset. I think your leadership, your mentorship, all the lessons you've taught me, it's been amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah.
Well, and
you're
I
welcome.
think, no, absolutely. And I think that also all of us like vibing off of each other. I always say, come into the office whether you have nothing on the docket, you're not meeting anybody, but come into the office and you'll just feel the energy and feel the vibe and naturally conversation will spark and something will come up and you'll leave rejuvenated and energized. And I mean, like I don't know, where'd Leroy go?
He's hiding.
Oh,
Yeah.
and everybody's like, man, Leroy, how old are you now? 20. Leroy just turned 20.
Wow.
And what I'm calling you out. What was your biggest commission check in the last year and a half that you've been
No
a
pressure.
realtor? So what was the commission on that?
23, 22.
So think about it. At 18, because we met Leroy when he was 18. Yeah. And everybody's like, what's Leroy's, trick to success? And I'm like, Leroy's at the office. I see the little camera. He's at the office every day. Yeah. Every day I see on the camera if it's like not Eric or David or Leroy.
Sometimes when I'm working and I could feel him just looking at me. And I'm like, and I know he's not doing anything, but I know he's just like watching me work. Like if I get a phone call, he just puts everything down, just listens. And I'm like, okay, I mean, cool. It's just Alana, but that's fine.
Right, and this is Leroy you have nobody real estate in your family. Like, he doesn't come from a real estate background. Just graduated high school and said, I'm going to get my license. Followed David on Instagram, reached out to him, and now is putting in the work. And there's times where I'm like, Leroy, what are you working on? And if he's not making his calls, he's like, I'm organizing my database. So then he taught a database class. And he's like, if you follow Tom Ferry's method, word for word, it actually works. And I'm like, who would have thought? You actually, you follow the successful people. And so that's what I think the difference is like waking up, and when I teach agents about time blocking, I learned this from Nikki Salter, like start with your bookends. You have kids, you want to wake up, even if you don't have kids, say every morning I'm going to wake up and I'm going to get an hour workout in. And Ryan Serhant said, if you work out first thing in the morning or you work out in the morning, you've already done the hardest thing for the day. Yep. Because then everything else gets in the way. Then kids or a client or a last minute showing or a dinner or something that you don't want to have to turn down because you got to go work out, but you have that discipline. So start with your bookends of either you're getting your kids to school. That's David and I's routine. We get up together. I get Stella dressed, he gets dressed, he takes Stella to school, goes to the office. Then I get the baby taken care of, we get everybody situated, I work out, go to the office, handle what I need to do, whatever it is. Yeah. And then you have your bookends. He knows to pick up Stella by 4:30, 4:45.
Except for today.
Yeah. What time's your school open till? And then you start there. Whether you have kids or not, just create your bookends and time block from there. And that's why I told the agents, I'm like, every other day come to the office for 2 hours during lunch. Pick up lunch and just come to the office. Just figure out some sort of discipline and routine, and then you'll start to notice, wow, my mindset has changed, my business has changed, my productivity has changed, and then it just kind of
I think that, and if you're talking to the same people every single day, you're going to be the same person every single day. I think you really need to expand your circle of friends, your circle of clients, relationships, meet new people. I think then once you meet new people, it changes everything, because then they refer you out and introduce you. I mean, I've met so many people that I'm friends with now that I wasn't even close with 2 years ago. Yeah. But because of transactions and how good we became friends during the transactions, refer me out to their friends. And we all became friends. And so your circle just grows and grows in different pockets, and then your business grows in different pockets. And so I think that's important as an agent if you want to grow and expand, especially in luxury. Your circle of friends is very important.
Right. Yeah. I think going back on the exercise thing, I just got to say this for agents is there's a thing that I hear is well, I don't have time. I don't have time. And I think that I look at, just recently, I look at my parents, I look at, and we all have parents that have gotten older, and I look at, we were just on a cruise, and I don't know if y'all been on a cruise lately, but it reminds me of the movie WALL-E, where people are on those chairs and they're all really big.
That's why you don't want to go.
I mean? That is why we will never go on a cruise.
He loves cruises.
You love cruises.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm getting seasick thinking about it.
With kids, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, is that I think if you don't make the time now,
right,
you can't make the time later. Think about it. If you don't set aside time at this point in your life, when we're in our 30s, when we're in our 40s, when we're in our 50s, you don't get to make up that time when you're in your 70s and your body has completely failed you. Mm-hmm. So health is wealth needs to be like that. That's like the starting line for every agent is take care of your body. If you do, it'll take care of you.
Right. So I want to shift gears. David and I are a husband and wife team. Yeah. You and Christina are a husband and wife team. Oh, yeah. Explain y'all's role, your dynamic. We've really had to learn as we go in regards to communication, in regards to helping each other out where, we pick up on each other's strengths and weaknesses. And I know there's one area that he's really he's brilliant in certain areas. And then there's other areas where he's that's Alana's realm and jurisdiction. Yeah. And we know that. And then also being able to shut it off. So I want to know on a completely micro level how y'all's relationship works in business, at home, being a parent, family, all of that.
Yeah, so we've been married 23 years.
Wow.
Gosh.
Think about that.
So y'all were together
longer than Leroy's been alive.
Yeah, this is true. So
Think about that.
He gets roasted every podcast.
I know,
I mean, it's
poor
not
Leroy.
roast,
He
it's just
no,
reality,
it's
man.
true.
There's nothing wrong being young.
Leroy, you weren't alive for
Leroy, I'm
9/11,
sorry,
right?
Leroy.
You weren't alive for 9/11. That blows my mind.
There you go.
But
Yeah.
okay,
23 years.
So, but y'all were married. So, doing the math, you said Enzo's 13. Y'all were 10 years
10
married
years
before
married.
you had kids.
10 years
I want to
married.
dive into all that.
Yeah. So if you go back when we got married, we were cruisers. Like our first honeymoon was on a cruise, 8-day
Wow.
cruise. It was amazing.
Wow.
And we've been cruising ever since.
You love a good cruise.
And I've always said this, even when Christine and I were dating prior to us getting married, is that we're gonna make a great team. I would always tell her, we're gonna make a great team. And she would always look at me. She's like, I don't know what this guy's talking about. I was like, trust me, we're gonna make a great team. And there was a very yin and yang about us. Now, in a lot of ways, we're very opposite.
Yeah.
You know, I'm super sports. I mean, I can watch badminton, okay, on TV. If it's on ESPN, cornhole, whatever that thing they're tossing, I'll watch whatever. My wife could care less about sports. Doesn't want to watch it, doesn't care. And so we're very opposite in that regard. But the one interesting thing is that we've always had the foundation. Really, I think what's ultimately helped us is a relationship with God. Like really having a faith that reminds us that it's not just about us.
Right.
That there's something bigger beyond just us.
At the end of the day, that's your common denominator.
It's our common
Without
denominator.
remove
It's our
everything
faith.
else. That's what David and I always said when we were dating.
Yeah.
I'm like, kudos to people that can date outside whatever, if a non-believer or something. But I always say, like, at bare minimum, scrape everything away. That's your common denominator.
And that foundation is pivotal in a lot of ways, because what it does is it gives you a place to go, whether the Bible, your pastor. It gives you a place where somebody could step in and really help you see what you don't see. And I will never forget this. I read a book, and I shared this on the last podcast. It's Gary Smalley. He's written hundreds of marriage books from a biblical perspective. It's called The Hidden Keys to a Loving, Lasting Marriage. That book changed everything.
Add to cart.
The Hidden Keys to a Loving, Lasting Marriage. What it did was, it's in two parts, by the way. It has the husband part and the wife part.
And
nice.
you read them simultaneously?
You read them separately.
Well, separate, but then you come together. Okay.
And just trust me on this, David. I know what you're going to do. After the first 2 chapters, you're going to run to the woman chapter and be like, what the heck is going on? Because in the first part of the men chapter, it basically says, dudes, you're the problem.
Yeah.
It's like, we're the problem.
That's a book I can get behind.
Yeah, exactly, right? But it was, I read that in year 2 of my marriage. Year 2 of my marriage. That biblical book, what it did is it taught me that I'm a buffalo, my wife's a butterfly. That a strong wind can kind of ruffle where my wife is headed, where her day is going, and that's not a negative. It's just a reality of the way we view the world.
Right.
Men are like
her personality.
Buffalo. We're
right.
just, and we're clueless. I mean, that's really the bottom line. Whereas a butterfly is a little bit more sensitive to what's going on. But that's also the blessing of our wives. Because
EQ.
my wife, her gut instinct, way better than mine. There were people that were in our lives that she was like, you can no longer, that's not going to work anymore. There were people that we're like, hey, this is not going to be a relationship that we can move forward with. That's not the business deal that we're going to make right now. Mm-hmm. Because she had an instinct, because she's more sensitive. So the foundation is a biblical, that biblical, the Bible, and then a great church home. We go to CBC. I don't know. Have y'all heard Pastor Ed preach?
Yeah.
Unbelievable preacher. And then I think the next part is that when you go to business, what we realized is that we needed to have somebody come in and coach us. Because I wanted to tell her how to do what she was doing, and she wanted to, let me do what I was doing, just do you, but I wanted to micromanage her. And she was all hands off with me, but I wanted to micromanage her. And that doesn't work in a relationship. If you're going to micromanage somebody, you're not trusting them to do the task set before them. And so we had a business coach come in, and I'll never forget, this dude was from New York. He was straight up, and this dude would cuss me out. You never met this dude.
I think I have.
Simon. Well, no, you did. He came in one day.
Yeah.
I
remember that.
Sid Mendelson. Sidney Mendelson. He came in one day, and he came in. You were there. I remember he walked in. But this guy would cuss me out in a coaching session and just be like, "You leave her alone. You bleep, 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 bleep. You let her do her." And he laid out, here's what Christina does. That's her task. Here's what you do. And he divided it up so that we could get a clearer vision of what's her task, what's my task. It changed our lives. It changed our marriage, because as we started to do the business, I was really like trying to be domineering and wanted to run everything and tell her how to do what she was doing and not give her the freedom to do it. Mm-hmm. And so that changed everything for us. So having a coach come in, that was huge. And then I think the next, with kids and parenting, I think for both of us, she's always been the one that has been really good with how to parent Enzo. She's always had this intuitive thing, and there's always been these moments where she's just like, I wouldn't have done it that way. I could have done this. And I always said,
we're literally going through that now with a 3-year-old.
Right? Every time I would step back, and of course I'd be like, ugh. And she's like, I read this in this book, and this book said this.
Is that us?
And I mean, literally, and I would sit there and I would just be like, okay. And then I would do it her way, and I would be like, it worked. Right? Because women
Did y'all coordinate this?
No, it's just reality. Women have an instinctual nature to this. And so even today at the golf course, I blew it. And I got really upset. And we were like hole number 2, and we're just watching this. And me and Christina are getting into it. And I had to stop and just go, you're right. I love you. I'm sorry. I was a jerk. You know what I mean? And so being quick to apologize, being quick to be, the one that says, I blew it. And for our wives, this would be the thing is that a lot of times our wives, they don't want the quick sorry. They want the, like, do you really know how you hurt me sorry?
Yeah.
Which is a whole different level.
They want to dig.
Well,
they don't want to dig. No, it's not a dig.
No, like they want me to dig
like
into it.
It feels like a
no.
dig
My whole thing is
it hurts our pride.
Right, and I think as women, and maybe y'all can agree with me, and being married, I'm like, he's like, you're right. I'm like, this is not a matter of being right or wrong. Like, there's no teams that I didn't win. I don't get a point on my side of the scoreboard. My whole thing is like, I just want to be understood. Do you understand where I'm coming from on this? Do you just see it from my point of view? You can tell me you're sorry if you mean it. Yeah. Oh, but at the end of the day, though, like I don't care to be right. I don't get a high off of being right. And an outside, perspective, yeah, there's some fun to that. But other than that, in a marriage, I'm like, I don't want to be right or wrong. I just want you to understand where I'm coming from and why I feel the way I do, why I reacted the way I did, and then that's it. And so that's why I think we're laughing at this, because he's like, oh well, she wants to dig. I'm like, no, I just want you to understand. This is where I was coming from.
Yeah.
This is.
And it feels like a dig.
I'm just waiting for her to be like, and I am keeping score. And just pull out the score.
And actually, if you want,
it's in our
I flip it over a big
okay, so
thing.
I have a hard time with this. You're a lot better at this than I am. So what's y'all's method as a married couple to turn it off? Like, because you guys run a business together, multiple businesses together, and we do as well. And so at night, or on dates, like we talk about real estate. And
Real quickly, I don't mind. We actually really enjoy it for the most part. But it is to the point where, like, last night I was like, hey, when we're laying in bed, let's write out her top 3 job duties.
Oh, I was like, what? Where are you going?
I was like, hey, when the kids go down, let me pull out my laptop and farm our neighborhood. It's one of those things, which we really enjoy. It hasn't ever gotten to a point where we're like, can we just shut it off? Because we actually really do enjoy work and what we do. But at some point, how do y'all navigate that?
So we did a class. It's called the Big 5, and it was a really cool class. We did this for Dane Schrader, and it was a class talking about, what are the big 5 things that have helped us be successful? And one of them is stay in your lane, right? Like your lane. But one of the big ones that really has helped us is this idea that a balanced life, right? Like what is balance, right? So if I told both of you right now to stand on one leg, right? If you were to stand up in the middle of this podcast on one leg, if you were to stand there on one leg, are you fighting to hold your balance? Is it hard? right? It's hard, right? So the reality is, what I try to explain to people is that you're not living life in Gary Keller does a really good job with this. The goal is not to live life in balance. The goal is to manage the extremes, right? The goal is to manage the extreme, because when you guys are on vacation, you want to go to the full end of what that vacation is like.
Right.
Meaning you are so
Unplugged.
detached that you're sitting and you're almost like, where's my phone? Right? That's the extreme, right? And then there's the other part of it. It's where you have 7 deals in escrow, right? And you're way over here at this extreme. And the reality is, at that extreme, if you were to go, I need to be balanced.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not a reality.
Yeah.
You
Right.
have 7 deals in escrow and you've got 3 buyers. There's no way to be balanced in that lifestyle unless you're just going to be in this monk-like state of just like, well, I'll only do a couple of deals at a time. You know what I mean? I only want to do, what I can handle. and then I'm going to turn my phone off at 5:30 and call me tomorrow. Nobody's going to do that, because so you have to manage the extremes so that when you're in this extreme point, you realize and you look at your wife and you go, hey, I'm going to be at an extreme for about the next 2 to 3 weeks. And it's going to be nutty, right? It's going to be nutty. And then you go, but here's the deal. I think we could do a vacation in 4 weeks. If you told your wife, I think we could do a vacation in 4 weeks and I'll be out of this, your wife is going to look at you and go, booking right now. You know what I mean? Like, done. Because they're going to have, and she's smiling because she knows, because now she sees that we're going to be able to go over here.
Right.
Now, if you were to say, oh, I just want to be in the middle, I want to be 50-50. I want to be right in the middle of a relaxed life and a work-life balance, to where there's no such thing as a balance in that. You can't stay there. It's theoretically impossible.
Right.
So managing the extremes is the way I look at it, and the way my wife and I talk about it, is that in those times where, like, if it's going to be a stressful week, I'll tell her, hey, I'm probably going to be, there's 3 nights that I'm going to have to be out late. It's going to be a little bit of an extreme this week, but here's how we're going to counterbalance that. We're going to go do this.
Right. And I'd say we've gotten better about it. It's hard. I feel like I talk so loud. It's hard now adding another child into the mix, because Stella was easy. Put her to sleep, have a babysitter, you're good. Yeah. But we're pretty good about it. And he and I even said, like, we have a full week this week, and then it'll be nice to kind of unplug because we go out of town next week. Yeah. So it's like, I'm really glad that we like built it up really big, and then we're able, and then now the vacation feels 10 times more earned and deserved and more relaxing. And also, I would say, I would like to think that we're pretty good at, hey, we've got a full jam-packed schedule. Let's just etch out some time for date night. Yep. And if it's just impromptu, it's whatever. I've even told him, like, let's just, even if it just, my love language, everybody I think should take the love language test by, what is it, Gary Chapman? Yeah. My love language is quality time. Yep. So I'm like, even if it's just running errands with you, which sounds like probably his own personal hell. Yeah.
Christina's his quality time too.
I'm gonna go Lowe's. I want to go with you.
Yes, I'm like, let's make a date out of going to Lowe's. Let's pick out fans together. And he's like, let me just get in and out. And I'm like, no, that's just that's my love language. So just being able to carve out a little bit of time where, even if we are talking about work or whatever it is, it's just that quality time together. Yeah. No distractions, no phone, no blowing up of an email, no anything like that, which it is the beauty in working together. But at the end of the day, though, like when we're in the office, we're both pretty much in work mode. I think a lot of y'all have seen, like, we're just like, if anything, I think we pick on each other more than we show affection or anything. But I do think that it's so important. Like you said, there's no such thing as balance. No. Just like there's no such thing as multitasking. You're just jumping from one idea or one task to another very quickly. And at some point, something's going to kind of fall short. Yeah. And so just being able to figure out, hey, we're just going to grind really hard for 2 weeks. Yeah. And then I'm going to kind of like plant all those seeds and then let that sit back a little bit, watch a little bit of that play out, and then kick it right back up. And I think that that's how real estate works. It's just like these ebb and flows all day that, like you said, you're just managing those extremes. Yeah. Like we had talked about on the previous podcast, you can go 2 or 3 weeks without a closing, and you're just like, do I have business? Yeah. Am I gonna be able to pay bills? And then all of a sudden you have 1 week where you have 6 closings in 1 week. Yeah. And I know that's an extreme example, but that's just kind of how this business works is these weird ebb and flows of just one extreme to another, essentially.
Yep. Yep.
Very true. Okay, so one thing I want to give you, because I don't know if you remember this, when I used to work with you, after hours,
Yes.
we would go out behind the office, off the clock. We would do cigars and whiskey, and he always had the best whiskey. And this was the first bottle we had shared together. So,
that's right.
But this is
Yes.
So this is a gift
you.
from us. As a thank you for being on the podcast. I appreciate all the time, efforts, and wise words you've always given us. And well, thank you.
Thank
so,
you.
Yeah,
This was awesome.
actually, plug yourself real quick. Where can they follow you?
So the Tomas Martinez Instagram and Facebook TM3 Impact, and then a website TM3 Impact for the podcast. It's also TM3 the number 3 Impact.
Love it.
Yay!
Well,
thank you.
Thank you again. We'll see y'all next time on Moving
Awesome.
Mirror.
Yeah.